Do you have your patients do pulling exercises like the horizontal row without knowing if they're activating the right muscles? At first glance, the movement might look good, but there's a critical difference between a proper pattern and one that causes overload and compensation, a difference you can't see without electromyography. The horizontal row with a resistance band is one of the most commonly used exercises to work the posterior trunk muscles, improve posture, and treat shoulder and neck pain. However, its effectiveness depends on proper technical execution and, above all, a balanced pattern of muscle activation. With small adjustments to technique and a precise assessment of which muscles are actually being activated, this exercise can become a key tool for improving scapular stability, reducing shoulder pain, and optimizing postural function. In this guide, you will discover how to accurately assess the most relevant muscle synergies during a horizontal row with a resistance band, using real examples and electromyography-based evidence, so you can immediately apply this information in your clinical practice. Remember, you can find all the information about endurance at the link in the description. When performing a horizontal row, especially with a resistance band, these are the main muscles involved. The latissimus dorsi, which is the primary mover responsible for generating the pull. The posterior deltoid, which assists in the final phase of the row and helps stabilize the shoulder. The lower trapezius, which is essential for scapular retraction and depression and is also key for scapular stability. And the upper trapezius, which has a stabilizing function, but its activation must be controlled. If it becomes overactive, it can cause unwanted tension in the neck and shoulder. So what should the expected synergy be? The latissimus dorsi should be activated more than the posterior deltoid, which in turn should be activated more than the lower trapezius, and this one more than the upper trapezius. This order reflects an efficient distribution of effort. Let me present a clinical case, a patient with shoulder pain. Take a look at the activation results. The posterior deltoid is activated more than the latissimus dorsi, the latissimus dorsi more than the lower trapezius, and the lower trapezius is activated the same as the upper trapezius. Therefore, the posterior deltoid is overactive, taking on more load than necessary, which can lead to fatigue or joint overload. The latissimus dorsi has an activation deficit, meaning the main muscle responsible for the movement is not performing its function properly. The trapezius has an activation deficit, the scapula is not properly stabilized, which affects the efficiency of the movement. The upper trapezius is moderately activated, meaning it is the only muscle within the expected range. This pattern can lead to continuous compensation by the posterior deltoid, increased load on the glenohumeral joint, and perpetuate pain. Now take a look at what a normal activation pattern looks like during a row with a resistance band. In a movement performed without compensations, you should observe this pattern. The latissimus dorsi activates more than the posterior deltoid, which in turn activates more than the lower trapezius, and this one more than the upper trapezius. Here, the pull starts from the latissimus dorsi, is properly distributed to the stabilizer, and the posterior deltoid does not get overloaded. If we compare the patient with pain to the normal pattern, take a look at the results. The posterior deltoid of the patient with pain shows 50% more activation than the normal pattern. This excess can cause premature fatigue and limit exercise efficiency. In contrast, in the normal pattern, the effort is distributed better, with greater emphasis on the latissimus dorsi and more efficient scapular stabilization. How should you use this information? With this guide, you can accurately assess whether the technical movement is efficient or if there are compensations that aren't visible to the naked eye. Objectively measure the activation of key muscles. Personalize re-education exercises to improve muscle synergy. Use biofeedback with electromyography to visually and didactically correct patterns with your patient. Therefore, the horizontal row with a band is a great exercise if done correctly. Assessing the muscle synergy between the latissimus dorsi, posterior deltoid, and trapezius is key to improving performance and reducing shoulder pain. With tools like surface electromyography, you'll be able to identify and correct mistakes that would otherwise go unnoticed. See you in the next post.